I call this meeting of the Workforce Development, Finance, and Policy Committee to order. We don't have a quorum, so we will not do minutes yet. First bill on the agenda is House File 5136, Representative Dan Wolgamott. Welcome to the committee, Mr. Speaker Pro Tempore, to your bill.
Well, thank you very much, Chair Zhang and members of the Workforce Development Committee for the opportunity to present House File 5136, which seeks a one-time appropriation of $2.5 million for the Center for African Immigrants and Refugees Organization, also known as CAIRO. Mr. Chair and members, the purpose of this grant would be to help CAIRO with its programs for workforce training and youth education, building on their work as they expand operations into Minnesota. They're working to increase equity and social justice so immigrant families can thrive in central Minnesota and all throughout the state. CAIRO offers a variety of programs working with children and parents to build successful outcomes. Their pre-K to third grade program helps increase literacy and equity. Their space program emphasizes higher graduation rates for lifetime achievement, and their youth mentoring program for career preparation and success. Their Parent Leadership Council builds partnerships with parents to help them become the best they can be for their families and the community. Their programs are comprehensive and meet the diverse needs of African immigrant families. We're bringing this bill forward because CAIRO is requesting a one-time appropriation to help support these programs. It's to build capacity and seek other contributions. We will be putting together an amendment to reflect the Higher Works Collaborative, a St. Cloud social services group, to be the fiscal sponsor for CAIRO. Mr. Chair and members, an investment here will help build a generation of well-educated, empowered, and engaged citizens who will make big contributions to our great state of Minnesota. That is the bill. That's why we're bringing this forward. And I have someone here who can answer further questions. And we thank you for your time and consideration this morning.
Thank you, Representative Wolgamott. Members, in your package, there should be, for all the 501c3 organizations, their financial documents, registration, 990s. If you don't have any questions about that, refer to that, and also be in touch with Representative Wolgamott. Any further discussion on House File 5136? Seeing none, thank you, Representative Wolgamott. Next is House File 5064, Representative Hurd. Welcome to the committee, Representative Hurd, to your bill.
Good morning, Chair Zhang and committees. Thank you so much. In front of you, I have House File 5064, which is Theater Moo. Theater Moo is a fantastic organization here in the Midwest region. So Asian American art is actually something that is had not been supported for many decades, and Moo started. They were the first to provide Asian American performances and stories, and they are now probably the second largest, from what I understand, in the country as an Asian American theater company. Moo does more than just provide performances. They develop artists, they tell stories from diverse AAPI communities, and they provide also opportunities to not only for artists to develop, but they have paying opportunities for artists to continue to do their work. And so I would love for a workforce to support this organization.
Okay. Member discussion. I just want to remind you all that in your package, there should be 990 501c3 registration and status and everything in there. If you have any questions about it, follow up with Representative Hurd. Thank you, Representative Hurd. And you have another bill, House File 5093, the YWCA.
Thank you, Chair Zhang and committee. House File 5093 is actually a request for YWCA. The amount that they are requesting for is $700,000. They are about a $10 million organization serving the Twin Cities area and serving it well. They provide, workforce development programs, and two specifically, their CNA and their phlebotomy for healthcare. And so this is a fantastic opportunity for us to support an organization that does great workforce development.
Any discussion on House File 5093? Seeing none, thank you, Representative Hurd. Next is House File 5143, Chair Nelson. Welcome to the committee, Mr. Chair, to your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. House File 5143 grants the City of Brooklyn Park a special development authority to create a biotech district. This district is estimated to create 10,000 new jobs, 3,000 additional housing units, and play a crucial role in addressing workforce disparities that disproportionately impact members of the BIPOC community in Brooklyn Park. This district is located at the intersections of Highway 610 and Highway 169 with 245 available acres for development. The bill allocates funds from existing appropriations and new funds to Brooklyn Park to help set the foundation for the biotech district. It builds on existing biotech companies already in the area, which makes this a perfect place for a vibrant biotech innovation district. We have broad support from Medical Alley, Greater Minneapolis Saint Paul, and labor organizations throughout the state. Thank you for your consideration.
Discussion on House File 5143. Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Now that we do have a quorum, Representative Samir, have you had a chance to look at the minutes? You do now?
Yes, Chair Zhang, I move that we approve the minutes from April 3rd.
Representative Samir moves approval of the minutes from April 3rd, 2024. Any additions or corrections? All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion prevails, the minutes are approved. Next is House File, is Representative Noor here yet? Representative Noor, you want your bill funded? Representative Vang, are you here? Okay, members, you're not here, your bills are not going to get funded. Representative Hassan, you're here, so we'll fund you.
I'm not ready.
You're not ready? Okay. All right. Representative Zeleznikar, do your bill.
Are you ready? Okay.
House File 4962. Welcome to your committee, Representative Zeleznikar.
Thank you, Chair Jung. And members, this is a bill that is about creating a Center for Nursing Excellence for the state of Minnesota. And what I love about this bill is it's the Center of Nursing Equity and Excellence with the University of Minnesota and all of our state colleges. And it really addresses the nursing shortage that's affecting all of us, whether it's hospitals, nursing homes, assisted livings, everywhere we look. We need nurses. And having been in health occupations in high school, I think this is a great partnership with education down the road too. Really grow that lane. So if you've ever waited in a hospital, if you've ever waited to schedule an appointment, if you've ever admitted somebody to a nursing home or assisted living, you've had to encounter a nurse, and they're in a dire shortage right now. So I wanted to let you know that we need more than 36,000 registered nurses and 35,000 licensed practical nurses. And right now, our state schools are going to be graduating 5,000 RNs. So we have a deficit of over 30,000 registered nurses. This effort with the University of Minnesota School of Nursing and Minnesota State partners to create a Center for Nursing Excellence and Equity. The center would work with all 212 nursing education programs in 26 colleges and 26 universities across Minnesota, along with countless health systems. And it will be sharing and learning from 42 other state workforce centers, which I think is amazing. We don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. And so with this is a strategic plan that would help address these efforts. And this is really, I think, a phenomenal program that would benefit all of our communities. And I hope you will support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Zeleznikar. Discussion on the bill. Representative Centimero.
Thank you, Chair Zhang. Thank you, Representative Zeleznikar, for bringing this bill. I had some of the nurses and some of the staff working on the program come talk to me, and I was particularly impressed by what they talked about in terms of the demographics of their recruiting, and I think how they were specifically had recruited a large amount of Indigenous and Native potential nurses. So I'm supportive of this program. Thank you for bringing the bill.
Representative Weens.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Representative Zeleznikar. I appreciate what you're doing here. Obviously, in a variety of service capacities in our community that have been stressed through COVID and through civil disturbances, there has been just a real need to grow. And personally, dealing with family members, a parent who's going through that end-of-life process, really appreciate nurses and also our our therapists and those people that are involved in our medical community. Thank you for taking this view and a strategic piece to this, not just trying to do a stopgap thing, but something that looks to the future and inclusive of our populations. In my community, there's the East Africans who have stepped up and fill a role that are new Minnesotans. So thanks for opening this up. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Further discussion on the bill? Representative Zeleznikar.
No, I just wanted to thank the representatives for their commentary. I think this is a phenomenal program, and we really need to look at how to empower nursing to get more people into the field and revitalize it, especially coming out of a pandemic. We got to get people interested in healthcare again, and I think this is the place for it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Zeleznikar, and to the University of Minnesota, who I met with a few weeks ago for the incredible work that you're doing. Next is House File. Is Representative Chair Noor here yet? Nope. I can go. You can go. Okay. Representative Chair Hassan's ready. So, which bill do you want to go first? All of them? Okay. House File 5063. Representative Hassan, to your bill.
5063, you said, Mr. Chair?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. House File 5063 is funding, small funding for, an entity that's working with our businesses, underserved businesses. It's $180,000 to do technical assistance. And before somebody jumps and says, why is this here? I know Lead Baker is looking at me right now.
Where are these bills? Yeah.
Well, we have been saying this. We have tied childcare to workforce, and this is working with underserved businesses that employ people. So this is workforce related. This entity helps businesses with getting licensed, some technical assistance, and also a lot of times in the immigrant community, the way that businesses were run back home is different from the way that businesses are run here. You have to fill out forms, you have to do your taxes, you have to stay current with everything, and people don't know that. So this entity has been working with doing some hand-holding for small businesses, and that's why this bill is in front of us.
Discussion on House File 5063. Lead Baker.
Mr. Chair, I just want to tap the brake for a second here and try to understand. I don't have a copy of the bill in front of me. Is that correct?
It should. The language is in the DE.
Okay, so we don't have a separate bill to look at. Okay, so that's where the bill is. Okay. Just trying to catch up. I know these are all programs we need to discuss, and again, I will just look at for there. Thank you.
In your packets, there should be all the 501c3 information, 990s, financial audit, registration with the Secretary of State. If you have any questions about the bills, I would encourage everyone to reach out to the office of bill authors. Next bill, House File 5048, Representative Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 5048 is creating a training tech center with Joog. As you guys know, Joog has been working with the East African youth for many years. I believe it's since 2009. The word Joog means stay away. When we realized that our youth were like really picking up terrible habits and starting with opioid, gang violence, and all of the problems that the American society is, battling with. This entity was a group of young men who stood up, took charge, and were working with our youth. What they're asking is $1 million for equipment and hiring staff for a training center in South Minneapolis, a tech training center for youth in South Minneapolis.
Discussion. Seeing none, thank you, Chair Hassan. Next is Representative Vang's here, so we will go with Representative Vang's bill. House File.
my bills, since Molly's house is here.
Okay. Representative Vang, House File 5179, the African Career Education Resource, Inc., Organization of Liberians in Minnesota.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. House File 5179 is appropriation of $300,000 to two organizations, so $150 each to ACER, African Career Education Resources, and Organization of Liberians in Minnesota. So they represent one of the largest African immigrant community in the Northwest suburban area. And so the funding will go towards healthcare skills training and computer skills training. And I have executive directors from each of these organizations who can provide further details about these funds.
Okay. So you have 2 minutes of your giving to them. You have to be very brief. And again, members, the financial documents of the organizations are in your packets. If you have questions, speak with the bill author. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Nalima Sitati Munene. I'm the Executive Director of ACER, the African Career Education and Resources, Inc., and we're requesting $150,000 each for the two organizations to provide trainings in fields, in on-demand fields, which CNA is a starting point for a lot of the immigrant community to get into the healthcare field, and there's a lot of need in that area for positions to be filled. And the computer training skills is because we have realized a lot of folks in our community need that computer proficiency. So after they receive the CNA training, they also need to be proficient in the computers to take the tests and even to be successful in the training so that they can be employable. And it is an easier getaway because the training is about 6 weeks. We have been carrying out this program, the previous funding, and we're running out of funds, and it has been a successful program with both organizations.
Discussion on the bill. Seeing none, thank you, Chair Vang, and thank you to the testifier. Next is another Chair Vang bill, the United Senior Lao-American bill. To your bill, Chair Vang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, there's no quite, the bill has not been quite introduced yet, but I can share a little bit about the nonprofit. So this is funding for United Senior Lao-American Association, and this nonprofit was built up to support the Lao community since they're becoming refugees since the war, and the Lao population in Minnesota is one of the third largest populations. Minnesota is home to the third largest population of Laos in the U.S., and so there's about 20,000 Lao in Minnesota. So it represents about 6% of the total Asian population, and so this nonprofit's mission is to enhance and support the Lao community by seeking social and economic justice and promoting Lao culture and traditional values. And I have the executive director here, Apichar, who can testify on how the funding can support the nonprofit's mission.
If we could be very brief, and members, in your in the DE amendment, the bill language is included in there, and also the financial information of the organization. Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony. Please be very brief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Apichar Kraising, and then I am the Executive Director of the United Senior Lao-American. So we will use the funding to provide the training and education for the youth to get ready for the college, and then to support them, make the opportunity for them to get into all the network, and then help leveling them to pay in the field, and address them with all the systematic. Thank you. Yep.
Further discussion on the Chair Vang bill. Lead Baker.
Mr. Chair, thanks. And Representative Vang, this is a bill that doesn't have a number yet, right? You're still working on this. Why is it coming to us so late? And you've got a number of them. I'm just curious of the background of why we're rushing through these bills today, not just yours, and I'm not saying they're not good bills. I just don't know why we haven't had time to sort of absorb them for just a minute. Could you just explain that to me in the last minute on a lot of these bills?
Thank you, Mr.
Vang.
Chair, and thank you, Representative. We all know that this week is deadline week, and I'm also chair of another committee. So in my fluster of trying to get many of the good bills heard, so as a result of poor management of my end, this is a last minute approach, so I will ask for your graceness from the committee. Apologies, but this is a good nonprofit. They do serve there's not a lot of nonprofits that serve specifically niche communities, and so this is an important nonprofit to support the senior Lao and youth communities here in Minnesota.
Lee Pickard, as I stated, if you have questions, this is why we're having discussions. I understand that a lot of these bills came in last minute, but you also understand, you've been here for many years, that this is how this process works. And we also are including Representative Zeleznikar's bill, which was not in our jurisdiction, which we also want to make sure that the work that she's doing is also for us. That's why we're having a hearing today. I'm asking them to keep it brief for 2 minutes because we have several other bills. But if you do have questions, I do encourage you to follow up with the chair, and that's why I've also requested for each of the bill authors to have all of the financial information in case if anyone wants to review them, look over them.
And to that, Mr. Chair, thank you for that, again, review. This is, again, and I appreciate it. I've seen the draft of the omnibus bill, and I do see a lot of things in there that are very positive, so thank you. I just want to make sure that we show the public, we are taking the time to look at some of these things in front of people, in front of the cameras, to do our due diligence, and that's what seems to be moving very quickly with the 2-minute limit. And again, we're spending a lot of money, and again, this is part of our jurisdiction, I get it, and I just want to make sure that I have that time to look at this between now and Friday morning as well. So just want to catch my breath a little bit here, so thank you.
We will have time this Friday, and just because the testifiers are limited to 2 minutes, it does not mean our discussions are limited to 2 minutes. So next is House File bill language for the Hmong American Farmers Association. To your bill, Representative Vang.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, committee members, for your indulgence. This is another bill for HAFA, Hmong American Farmers Association. They are a nonprofit created to advance the economic prosperity of Hmong American farmers and their families. And so Hmong farmers make up about over 50% of produce vendors in the Twin Cities farmers market, but despite their hard work and skills, Hmong farmers continue to be disadvantaged when it comes to accessing land, capital credit, research training, and especially new products for new markets. So HAFA is asking for $100,000 to support in their hemp training program. This is a potential new market opportunity for many of the Hmong farmers, and this could be a way to support new markets for the HAFA organization. And I have Jansen here, who's the executive director of HAFA, who can help answer any additional details and testify.
Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record, and please be very brief with your testimony, and we will go through discussions.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and House Committee here. And thank you, Representative Vang, for inviting me here for being such a strong and principled champion of family farmers. My name is Jansen Hang, and I'm the Executive Director with the Hmong American Farmers Association. We are a nonprofit organization that is created to advance the economic prosperity of Hmong American farmers and their families. Our mission is to enhance their capacity, grow their self-sufficiency, so that ultimately they can build themselves into generational community wealth. The Hmong American Farmers Association is requesting funds to support a bicultural, bilingual program for Hmong American farmers around hemp production. This training will further workforce readiness, employment, and entrepreneurial exploration, and skill developments around hemp production, processing, and marketing. Hemp is a growing industry in Minnesota, and Minnesota is making a huge investment, possibly 3 large processing plants. This makes sense because hemp is such a versatile plant. Its stalk can be processed into fibers or mixed with lime and sand to create hempcrete, or seed pressed and used for culinary and medicinal purposes. But the problem is we need more producers in 2009, and we need more producers. In 2019, there's 353 hemp growers in Minnesota, but in 2023 that falls to 128. But our farmers must be trained on how to grow hemp for Minnesota climate, and they must be educated about the rules and the regulations in our states.
Thank you, Mr. Hang. Further discussion on the bill? Seeing none, thank you. Well, Representative Centimero.
Thank you, Chair Zhang. Thank you, Chair Vang, for bringing this bill. I just wanted to say that I got a chance on your committee to go tour HAFA last year, and I really enjoyed it. I think this bill is really important to think about. I've heard just some concerns about the growing hemp market in Minnesota and wanting to make sure that we have equal opportunities for all communities to be a part of that. So I think this is really important work, and maybe if we have any funds, we can take a trip out there with the Workforce Committee this summer.
Thank you, Representative Samira. Next is the Minnesota Zej Zog bill. Representative Vang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Minnesota Zej Zog is another nonprofit organization that primarily serves Hmong youths. They have a very popular summer program, Hmong language program, summer immersion program for families, and it's been growing over the years. They are a recently new nonprofit, but they have been really successful in being able to access grants and funding to support the program, support youth in the summer and students. And I have Pang here, who's an executive director, who can explain more about how this funding can support their mission.
Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Bang Yang. I'm the executive director of Minnesota Zej Zog, also a veteran educator of 26 years, 2019 Teacher of the Year, and also a 2022 Bush Fellow. The mission of Minnesota Zej Zog empowers the Hmong community by nurturing the Hmong language, healing through the arts and wellness, and education across generation. We do national Hmong language reclamation work, mentorship and curriculum development, state Hmong educators work through mentorship and licensure, and local work in the West Metro with families in cities and schools such as Brooklyn's Hmong New Year, I Strive Summer Camp with an emphasis in real estate. Because of our extensive network among teachers, parents, and youths, we have a huge investment in the community. Combined with the secret sauce of uplifting and strengthening the economic gap, my team of 12 leaders are ready to transform the Hmong community to a better place so we can contribute to the vibrancy of Minnesota's economic health through workforce development. With the funding, we are proposing to have training to help remove these barriers that Hmong youths and adults may have that's holding them back from contributing to the economic impact of Minnesota. Also provide counselors to guide students with career choices, as some of the Hmong families that I work with, Hmong students that I work with in the classroom, parents may not have the skills or the time or the knowledge to help support them with the career choices. Also internships with other Hmong professionals in the community, and possibly even create a social enterprise where young people can use their strengths and creativity to actually give back to the community. So there's lots of opportunities to create something that's very innovative.
Thank you. Discussion. Seeing none, thank you, Chair Vang. Next is another Chair Vang bill, the Oromo Community of Minnesota. To your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. This is my last bill. This is specifically for the Oromo community of Minnesota. They are a nonprofit that was formed in 2017 to address the humanitarian needs of the Oromo community here in Minnesota and the diaspora. They have key programs in youth engagement, mental health outreach, and scholarship program. And I have Tashidi Wako here, who can introduce more and further details about how this funding can support their youth programs.
Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Good morning, Chair. My name is Tashide Wako. I'm here to testify for a $100,000 request for Oromo youth. And this is, maybe it's said Oromo community, but HIRPA is a nonprofit, which is all of us for each other, is a team of the nonprofits. And we would like to address underserved Oromo youth by outreach, particularly addressing mental health and substance use abuses that is prevalent, growing prevalent in the community. And this is our initial request here in the legislature, and we hope to really address the the youth problem that's growing in our community, and we would like to request your gracious support in that regard.
Thank you. Discussion on the bill for the Oromo community. Seeing none, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair Vang. Next is Chair Noor. Is he finally here? Yep. All right. House File 5183, Riverside Plaza. To your bill, Chair Noor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and members. It's good to be with you all. This request of appropriation is for the City Riverside Plaza Association, which has been in existence for a long time. Members, I think if you look at the historical perspective, that's one of the highest poverty in the whole state. When you look at the zip code, the highest density in the state, and with 19% of the population with disabilities. So this bill will ensure that those who are left out, especially those with disabilities, can get access to training so they can participate in the workforce. We understand the tight market in the labor, but also providing youth and individuals who are able to provide that type of service is essential to the community that I represent. So this is a small request that is to address the needs of the individuals in my district, at the same time provide access to employment in a tight market labor situation.
Further discussion. Lead Baker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Chair Noor, has this association received dollars from this committee before?
Chair Noor.
Mr. Chair, Lead Baker, no. There has never been any direct appropriation.
Lead Baker.
And Chair Noor, how do they normally fund themselves, get the revenue if they've not received state dollars before, or maybe it's from another area? How do they support themselves?
Chair Noor.
Mr. Chair, I think as part of the tenant association, there's a required resources that are invested by the landlord. It's 1,303 units for the plaza, but now with the growth in that area, we've got more than 2,500 units in that small block area. So yes, there's resources coming directly from the plaza itself, but there's also resources coming from other state like DLI and DEED to support them with some of the work that they do.
Thank you.
Lead Baker.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the bill. Then, thank you, Chair Noor. All right, next is the supplemental budget bill from Chair Hassan. Chair Hassan. House File 5205. I believe we have the commissioner here too.
I think he's just going to present the whole.
Okay. To your bill, Chair Hassan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is not much to say about this bill. This is the department bill, and they're here and ready to present it to you. Thank you.
Welcome back to the committee, Mr. Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to be here. For the record, my name is Matt Verlek. I serve as Commissioner of the Department of Employment and Economic Development. Pleased to be with you to talk through a presentation we have with, I think, 3 policy proposals followed by the supplemental budget items. The policy proposals, 2 of them relate to dislocated worker and 1, the Job Creation Fund. And I would invite, with your permission, my colleague Dariel to walk through the details.
Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Chair. Members of the committee, my name is Dariel Dannon, and I am the Government Relations Director at DEED. And as the Commissioner said, I am indeed going to walk you through a few policy bills, and then our supplemental budget ask. So with that, we'll get started. So the first item here is, and you'll notice actually a bit of a trend here in the items the department is presenting, is we're really presenting mostly cleanup items, technical corrections, that sort of thing is coming to you today. We had a big year last year, and so this year we're really doing a lot of cleanup. So one of those items is to make a change to the Job Creation Fund. We noticed working with our employers and, of course, looking at our other programs that one of the things we found is in the workforce, we have a number of folks who maybe have wanted to come back to the workforce, maybe they've had children, maybe they have an elderly family member, and they're not able to work full-time. But for our other programs, including the MIF, kind of our sister program to this program, we allow folks to count full-time equivalents when they are counting how many jobs they created, employers, how many jobs they created. And so we'd like to make a change to this program to make it consistent with our other programs and allow that full-time equivalent to count. So that's the policy change we're asking for in this item. We'll go to the next one. And at any point, of course, members, feel free to jump in with questions. The next item is we are looking to make some changes to a program we do here in Minnesota called the Dislocated Worker Program. And that's a program where we help individuals, primarily it's been individuals who've been laid off of their jobs at no fault of their own. We help them do job retraining, counseling, resume writing, and get back into the workforce. We identified, though, that there are a lot of folks who are still sitting on the sidelines. I think we all recognize that we have a workforce crisis in the state of Minnesota. And one of the things we can do, actually, like some of the folks who testified a little bit earlier, is we can utilize the existing systems we have and bring more people into it. And so these items that we're looking to change here in this bill will do that. And so what we'd like to do is we'd like to make some changes to allow, number one, the spouse of a member of the United States Armed Forces who's lost employment due to service member relocation, unemployed or underemployed. We'd like to allow them to utilize the Dislocated Worker Program. And then we'd like to allow individuals who have non-work related injuries utilize the Dislocated Worker Program. So those folks might need to retrain for their existing job, kind of in a new capacity, or retrain for a different job. And we'd like to be able to help them through this program. And then third, we'd like to expand the program to support adults with low income, who are recipient of public assistance or are basic skills deficient. And so this would really allow us as an agency to get in and support folks who are, as we've identified, sort of on the bench or could be put on the bench because they have a non-work related injury or otherwise. And so this would make those changes to our program. We'd anticipate that we have a little bit, I think we're anticipating as an agency, we may have up to a 10% increase of folks utilizing the program with these changes. The next program, I love that the commissioner is assisting me here. Thank you, Commissioner. Doing a very good job. The next change that we're asking for is actually also in the state's Dislocated Worker Program. One of the items we identified is that we have a federal version of this program and a state version of the program. And the state program is often a little bit more flexible than the federal version of the program. But we identified here that we actually have in statute a cost category requirement that no longer exists in federal law. And in fact, we think that this requirement in state law was something we picked up here and just paralleled the federal law. And so what we'd like to propose doing is to take that out of the federal law. And what it would do is it would eliminate the strict cost categories for the program. The agency will still have requirements in our grant agreements and our budget with all of the folks providing these services. But what this will allow us to do is to be more flexible serving individuals. And what we've heard from folks providing these services on the ground, so our local workforce development boards and otherwise, is that some individuals are requiring more, soft skills assistance and otherwise to get them into job training. And so what this will allow us to do is have that additional flexibility to provide services to folks where they need it. And again, all of this is in a theme of getting folks who might be kind of on the sidelines of the workforce into the workforce as best we can. And next, do you want to say some headlines?
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, next we would like to discuss a set of supplemental budget proposals. As you can see, and I would say these are sort of limited and modest in nature. Collectively, they are budget neutral or even in some cases would send money back to the general fund, which hopefully will be to your liking.
Chair, yeah, thank you, Chair. For a second, I had to check if I had to reintroduce myself, but of course I don't. So thank you, Chair. So the first item here, and we are following along, so the sections here reference if the bill is in front of you and we're going to go through the bill kind of in order. So like the Commissioner said, this is a fairly technical set of proposals, and they are, not even cost neutral, they are cost negative. We're returning some funds to you, so hopefully that's well received. The first item here is that in one of the programs we created last legislative session, the Targeted Populations Workforce Grant Program, we identified that we had limited our grants to organizations with an annual budget of no more than $1 million. And particularly in greater Minnesota, we've identified that's sometimes too low. So that's still an interest of our agency. We still want to focus on smaller organizations, but we don't want to unfairly limit ourselves. And so we're proposing removing that cap, and then we'll continue to run the program. We've released one RFP. We're about to award some of those funds, but in the next round of funding, then we'll be able to be a little bit more flexible in awards. Our next item is in the vein of giving money back. This is money in the tails. But we identified that we had a spreadsheet agreement, as one often does, last legislative session. But when the bill got written, we accidentally gave ourselves a not agreed to increase in funding in fiscal years 26 and 27 in the base. And so we are coming to you to make that adjustment. So you can see in that column for fiscal year 26 that that's how the funding will look if you do enact these changes.
You don't want extra funding?
Of course, we would love them, but I believe this is the governor's proposal, so I believe the governor and others maybe had some other plans for those funds. So we are coming to you truthfully, letting you know that we made a mistake. So the next item here is a little bit more complicated. It's two sections of the bill. But what we had identified is we gave some one-time funding. You all gave some one-time funding to folks who do vocational rehabilitation to support folks with mental health issues. And that one-time funding was very well appreciated and received by folks who are doing the work on the ground. But one of the things they came back to us and asked us for is the ability to spread that funding over a longer period of time. Because it is one-time funding, they want to be able to make the kind of like IT investments, staff training investments, and kind of things that might take a little bit more time. And so what we're proposing to make sure that this aligns with the budget targets is in this section 3, we would cancel the funds for fiscal year 25, and then we'd rewrite it in the section 8. So we reappropriate the money there, the same money in section 6. We reappropriate the money and we allow that money to be spent through fiscal year 27. And what that'll do functionally is we'll be able to amend those grant agreements we have with folks, and they'll be able to spread the money over 4 years and make those investments that are going to be helpful to them to provide better services. So it is budget neutral, but it looks a little unusual. And of course, we relied on our friends at Minnesota Management and Budget and some of our technical staff to help make sure we wrote this in a way that kept it budget neutral. The next item here is in section 4. So this one removes the end date for transfers between funds. And you may remember that the legislature enacted a significant amount of funding around the Forward Fund, the Climate Innovation, and the State Competitiveness Fund. So all these funds are on the CHIPS Act and around some of the federal money that the state is receiving from around climate change and preparing the state for that. One of the things we recognize that we accidentally did is we created sort of a false timeline that we can transfer those funds. So we're suggesting removing that, which will allow us, if we need to transfer funds between those 4 funds in here, in this biennium and in next biennium. And then the funds do cancel to the general fund at the end of next biennium. But of course, we are certainly anticipating that we'll have a lot of, and we already have had a lot of interest in those funds. So we are anticipating that we'll probably utilize all the money. And the next item. So the next item is also we are giving funding back to you, or the general fund is what we're proposing here. So unfortunately, you may have noticed that we did not get selected for the Expo 2027. Belgrade, Siberia was selected instead, and Minnesota had been on the short list for the United States to potentially be hosting that space. Oh, Serbia, what did I say? Oh, Siberia, yeah, Serbia. How about we go with the right country? I haven't finished my tea, members. Anyway, yes, correct. The important thing here, though, is that you had all appropriated $5 million to support that effort. And because we were not selected for Serbia, not Siberia, we are proposing that we send that money back to the general fund, and the legislature can utilize it for other purposes. And members, last but not least, we had created a program in, I'm actually not remembering when, but some years ago, called the Airport Infrastructure Renewal, or AIR Grant Program. And this is something that I think there was some anticipation and excitement that doing economic development projects at greater Minnesota airports would be a significant economic boon, and they certainly can be. But we identified when we started rolling out this program that we can utilize other funds, including BDPI and some of our other potential funding at the agency, to do that work. We don't need a standalone boutique program to do that. In fact, we really haven't had a lot of demand or interest in the program, and we last awarded the funding in 2021. So last legislative session, we chose to not put any additional funds into this program. So it is sitting there, it is empty, and we are coming to you to propose that we eliminate the program in statute. And like I said, we can still do the work. We still commit to doing the work at our local regional airports, but we can do it through other programs, and this will just sort of streamline things for local communities and others. If you've reached out to me ever and asked about, our various tools in the toolbox, we have over 200 of them. So whenever we find a place that we can make things a little easier, we like to do that.
How much money was appropriated to this program?
So this has no money in it right now. It was originally appropriated at $2 million.
What happened to all the $2 million if only $250 was given out?
So, Chair, members of the committee, this is the last application that we awarded. This was the 250. So this was the last one was awarded in 2021. But we've awarded some funding before that. There were a number of projects awarded funding. So that was kind of everything that was in the queue that was anticipating excitement here, and then we kind of come to the end of, I think, the pent-up demand.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And with that, members, we are through our presentation and happy to take questions.
Discussion. Oh, I know y'all got questions. Lee Baker, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Welcome, Commissioner, and Danielle. Nice to see you guys again. The changes in some of these programs is some of this, and again, it was a kind of a brief overview, and I haven't had a chance to absorb everything. Let me back up a second. Last year was a pretty phenomenal year when it came to granting dollars to a lot of our nonprofits. I know currently we still have $153 million that has not gone out granted because of the, I don't know if it's the backlog or the work of deed. It's about, 35% or so has not yet been allocated. Some of the changes that you're proposing today, is that making it easier for you to get it out? Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I would say yes. First of all, I think part of the reason why some of the money hasn't gone out is, for example, the Minnesota Forward Fund is, I think, $400 million, and that it was one of the subjects of these changes to allow for transfers between our funds and Commerce. But those dollars are only for matching federal awards in IIJA, et cetera, and to date, no awards have been made on the federal side that would allow us to match the funds, for example. On the workforce side, which of course is our subject matter here, we paced out a series of, I think, 13 RFPs over the course of the last several months and are now making awards. Drive for Five was the biggest, most recent one at about $20 million, and we got a great pool of applicants and great grantees. Targeted Populations is the one where we've recommended a change here to allow bigger organizations to receive some funds in the future. We haven't announced the first set of awards in that yet, but to answer your question directly, yes, having latitude to give grants to somewhat larger organizations, especially in greater Minnesota, where we got feedback from organizations saying we would love to apply for this, but because we cover a larger geographic territory and we have to kind of do more things, we have a budget that exceeds the $1 million. So this will give us latitude to pick what really is the best organization in each different geography.
Lee Baker.
And thank you for that. I know sometimes when I've been really involved with the opioid side of things with DHS, and when it comes to granting and the rules that you guys have to really follow in, it seems like you're kind of changing the rules along the game here, and for folks that maybe had applied or had not applied because of the current rules, are you finding it challenging to kind of explain that we're changing the rules kind of midstream after the dollars have kind of been at least out there awarded? Are there any of those kind of issues that you're dealing with after we make these changes for you?
Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman and Representative, the one that we're recommending the change for lifting the cap on organization size or budget size, that change would, of course, only impact the next round of grants. The one that we have almost in the can, we haven't had the final conversations about whom to approve, but that's under the existing set of rules. And then I think it would be next year that we will do the new round, probably with a smaller sum of money available. But yes, we'll have to do some explaining and educating at that time. But I think with enough lead time that I wouldn't expect a whole lot of confusion.
Thanks. And thank you. A couple of questions maybe back a little further in the dislocated worker program. Some of the changes you're looking for, again, I kind of endorse and support the spouse of a member of the United States military. I think that's a good move. Individuals with non-work-related injuries, I think that makes a lot of sense. The last one, though, adults with low income and are recipient of public assistance and are basic skills deficient. To me, that is duplicating what we all just did last year here to really help a lot of nonprofits and a lot of workforce programs get developed for really that specific population. Are we finding ourselves duplicating this? I'm trying to put our pieces together with limited resources that we have. Are we having DEED now kind of do things in this program that others really are doing? Again, we just did so much last year. I want to not make sure we're duplicating services. And so with that particular population, I thought that was our biggest focus last year and for many years. And I just want to know, do you think it belongs in the dislocated worker when we're really talking just about low income, public assistance, and folks that really do need some basic skills that we are desperately trying to teach a lot of folks? So just, I want your interpretation of the appearance might be duplication. So help me with that, Commissioner.
Commissioner Berlin.
And Mr. Chairman Representative, I might invite Darielle to weigh in on that one.
Thank you.
Ms. Duriel.
Thank you, Chair. Representative Baker, it's a great question. And we at the agency are also always concerned about making sure we're not duplicating efforts. The great thing that the legislature created and that we utilize is we do have a case management tool called Workforce One. I think you might be familiar with it. That helps us track folks both kind of on the incoming and then sort of tracks them throughout the system. So you can think about the dislocated worker program as maybe a doorway for folks to come in through. So maybe they come in that doorway, they get assessed to find out sort of, what are their skills right now? What are their job training needs to get them into sort of that in-demand career, depending on their region, and then help to connect them with the folks that you all funded last legislative session. So some through direct appropriations and some through our competitive programs, including like targeted populations and otherwise. So it is very much intended to be a system, a workforce system. And actually that case management tool on the backside helps us sort of track and make sure we're not duplicating efforts. But you are absolutely right. This is intended to be an additional enhancement to some of the conversations we had last year to just get everyone as best we can.
Baker.
So through that door then, are you able to identify all the areas otherwise that we helped appropriate dollars to last year so you could help them navigate? Because that to me is probably the biggest challenge of residents in Minnesota that might be looking for some assistance from a workforce standpoint, is that you have really the clearinghouse of all those products, all those circles of where the dollars are and to which community and to which population we're really focusing on. So again, as long as we're not duplicating and making it, because again, I have a feeling that in future years, we may not be as robust of what we just did for this. And so if we now maybe channel more of that through DEED, maybe that's a better idea than all the nonprofits. So that's what I kind of see maybe happening, maybe not. But I just want to understand this better because this is a pretty significant change in my mind. And I think that was all that I have, Mr. Chair, for now. I appreciate that questions. Thanks.
Chair Becker Fenn.
Thank you, Chair Zhang. And so just to sort of what Lead Baker was speaking to, I think we have to remember that despite an improving economy, the wealth gap increases continue in our state like the rest of the country. And so I think any program, we should be doing multiple programs to help low-income folks. The reality is that there are many more people who fall into that category than probably any other category of the population of our state. And so I just want to note that, we live in a country where the gap between those who don't have a lot and those who have a lot is pretty large in our country. And again, despite the numbers looking good as a whole, I know I just read a story in MinPost in the last week about the wealth gap increasing despite the gains overall in the numbers. And so I applaud you for looking at more ways to help people. We know our businesses need workers, and we should be helping them any way we can. So I just wanted to speak to that issue. Thank you.
Further discussion. Representative Harder.
Thank you, Chair Zhang. My question relates to what seems to be a change on this full-time equivalency. Can you please explain to me why we are changing changes, and how does it impact the tracking that businesses do between full-time and part-time employees? Thank you.
Commissioner or Director?
Mr. Chairman, Representative, I might start and then invite Darielle to weigh in. I think the notion behind this is to reflect that in this tight labor environment, we have oftentimes more workers who are interested in less than full-time as they're trying to sort of stitch together income. And this will allow businesses seeking JCF assistance to kind of sum a set of workers that might be doing less than full-time, but so they can add up to a uniform measure for what qualifies as full-time.
Director Danon.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think well said, actually. Really, a lot of what we're trying to address here with this change, and this is how our other programs track FTE. So, for example, if we were to award, say, $1 million in JCF, we're going to couple that award with a requirement to have a certain number of full-time workers paid at a certain wage that's in the statute. And we're going to track that for 5 years to ensure that that employer, doesn't hire someone and then lay them off immediately. And so when we're counting those full-time workers, instead of right now, this program requires us to count only full-time workers, and any part-time worker or a worker at, say 30 hours a week who might just not be able to work that. We count full-time as 32 and above, but essentially not be able to hit that threshold. We'll be able to now, with this, instead count across the multiple workers, so we'll have full-time equivalents. So that'll be how our other programs track things too. For employers, that should actually provide more flexibility. And in fact, this is probably more of an issue in our greater Minnesota communities. That's where we're really hearing this feedback from folks, that it's just too hard to use these programs the way this program in particular is too rigid as it is. And so we're making this change in response to requests that we've had from communities that have wanted to use this program but haven't been able to just because of the rigidity here.
Further discussion? Well, Commissioner and Director Dan, looks like you both did so well that you also cover Vice Chair Brand's bills, House File 3452, 3451, and 3450. And so, Vice Chair Brand, do you want to do a closing comment?
Well, again, I think it's about meeting the needs of the community across the state. And this modernizes, but also provides some flexibility. So I really do hope that we can get this through the finish line and continue to do what we can to get the workforce charged and employed.
Thank you, Vice Chair Brand. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Director Danon. We do not have any members of the public who signed up for the public testimony on the DE 1 to House File 52. I'm sorry, Commissioner Relic.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we also have a letter providing commentary, which really covers a lot of the same ground. I could read some of that, or I believe you have it in your packets, and we can enter it into the record. Want to meet whatever your needs would be.
We have time. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Very good. So, on behalf of the department, I wanted to provide feedback on the committee's omnibus bill, House File 5205. This will sound familiar. It contains investments in multiple programs and endorses policy changes that will empower DEED to continue to fulfill our mission to empower the growth of the Minnesota economy for everyone. And I want to thank you and the entire committee for your partnership on this legislation. I would share my support and gratitude for including the 4 policy changes recommended by the agency, including flexibility and effectiveness of our existing programs. These include enhancing flexibility within the Job Creation Fund, as we just discussed, increasing inclusivity by removing the cap of $1 million or less from the Targeted Populations Workforce Grant Program, expanding access to dislocated worker services by including 3 new categories of interested workforce participants. I'm skipping over some details here again for sake of time. Optimizing use of state funds by allowing ongoing transfers between the Minnesota Forward Fund, Climate Innovation Finance Authority, and State Competitiveness Fund accounts. This would allow transfers between these accounts in this and the next biennium and provide DEED with flexibility to ensure full utilization of the state funds to compensate for natural year-to-year variability in demand. And this is one where I might just offer a clarification relative to our slides. The slides note, I think, eliminating the endpoint at the end of the next biennium, which could give you the impression that we're talking about doing these transfers well on into the future. But I think the way the language reads is that transfers are only allowed in the biennium that ends June 30th, 2027. So by striking that, it actually frees us to do transfers in this biennium as well as the next as circumstances dictate. So just wanted to make clear that we're not asking for infinite freedom to do that, but rather to do so sooner. And with that said, in closing, I would like to thank you, Chair Zhang, Vice Chair Brand, and the entire committee for your long-standing partnership and support, and would be glad to answer any further questions or leave it there.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, Lead Baker.
Thank you. And again, I think we've got a little wiggle room here, Mr. Chair. And I'm not going to go into a lot of the paid family medical because that's another day. I know that the chair has said that we're going to work on that another time. I've gotten the bill, and so we're working through some of those details and changes that you want to do. And hopefully you'll be here or somebody from DEED to help us kind of walk through any of the questions we have at that point. A while back when you were able to visit my community, you were very gracious in kind of saying through this implementation year, your plan was to visit with a lot of small employers. So I'm kind of curious how those, just high level right now, we can get more into it later on if we've got time, but are those happening, are you able to kind of report to that at a later point or sometime offline? I'm very curious because I'm really curious how they're responding to sort of this year of implementation.
Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, Representative, thank you. And just to clarify, you're talking about visits to small employers and work with small businesses?
Mr. Chair, or I think it was more of a maybe either that or roundtable discussions. You were going to bring some in to visit with you around the state or something. So either way.
Very good, Mr. Chairman, Representative. Thank you very much. Yes, and our work on small businesses is near and dear to my heart. Startups that we hope will grow into big businesses. One that is top of mind is just last Thursday, I got to be at a groundbreaking for an exciting new facility that actually is benefiting from, I think, $760,000 in job creation funds, which is one that we asked for a little more flexibility on, called Solugen in Marshall. And it is, I think, an example of what the future can look like here in Minnesota. They will produce industrial chemicals, acids in particular, like citric acid and other sorts of things that are probably in all sorts of products. Usually those are produced from petroleum and processed to produce those things. But this place will do so from organic sources, organic feedstocks, namely corn, processed at the ADM facility directly across the street. And so with a lot of private capital, a little bit of public capital as well, that new facility is going to employ a lot of people. It's going to help some farmers. And it's an example of decarbonizing the industrial economy. And then more broadly, props to our Office of Small Business Development and Innovation. They've been doing a series of resource events all across the state. In St. Cloud, I think it was at the Iron Street Distillery, and they've done them in maybe 6 communities across the state. Just inviting folks in to let them know here is the range of resources we have access to, whether it's Small Business Development Center, whether it's a small business partnership, nonprofit partners, or financing resources, et cetera, just so that we are trying to be as accessible as possible. Now, anybody can call us on any given day and we will tell them all about those things, but to show up in your town and say resources are available here and you can talk to a person face to face, that's just one more way to roll out the red carpet for small business.
Lead Baker.
And thank you. And I'm actually hearing those community engagements are happening. What I'm sort of getting towards, I think, though, is because we all experienced, at least, again, I'm an employer myself, we all sort of experienced a flutter of activity with ESST this year at January 1st. It's an important mandate that was different. And so what I found was that we, as a state, whether it was from Department of Labor or whoever, could have done a better job helping people understand it and be ready for it. You've got more time with paid family. I'm wondering, are you actually, with your engagements of all the services you do provide, are you talking about people and asking those questions about, let's talk about paid family medical leave and maybe what's this going to do and help you? Try to sell it. You know, I mean, a lot of folks are afraid of it. A lot of folks like me are not saying this was the best idea, but it's law. And I'm just asking the question, are you getting ahead of this and asking those questions? Or are we just waiting for people? Because you know what? They're going to freak out in 2026 when they say, what is this new thing I have to do? I'm just curious about, are we doing what we should be doing from the agency standpoint?
Commissioner Relic.
Mr. Chairman and Representative, thanks for the question. I think the answer is yes. We're engaged in a lot of outreach on a range of things, but specifically including paid leave. And examples of that, I would say, from the very beginning of my tenure as commissioner, which now goes back 10 months, one of my first phone calls was to Doug Loon at the Minnesota Chamber, and he invited me to do a webinar for all chamber members across the state, large and small, mostly on paid leave. And I know that we were doing our webinar at DEED right after Commissioner Blissenbach had done hers from DLI on Earn Sick and Safe, because we know that small business people and large business people, I mean, they're running their businesses and don't necessarily have time to track every last development here in this committee and beyond, with all respect, of course. And so chambers and other sources like that can be a trusted advisor on what all those things mean. And then likewise, last Thursday, I think it was, the chamber had their day at the Capitol, and I joined with a group of manufacturers talking about that. And then finally, when we get a chance with this committee to talk more about paid leave, we will talk in more detail about some of the engagements we've done with a variety of stakeholders, exactly to your point, that whatever one's view was on whether we ought to do paid leave, it is now the law of the land, and it's in everyone's interests to provide their input on implementation. And so in a presentation that we will do to the Senate very soon, we have a slide about 50 public engagements that we've done with groups, including safety leave partners, healthcare providers, the insurance industry, employers and small business, et cetera. So lots of ongoing engagement to invite their commentary on how can we make this as simple as possible, as understandable as possible, so that it all works well when it comes to January 1st, 2026.
Lee Baker.
Look forward to having more conversation in this committee. So thank you, Commissioner, for being here today.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Commissioner, for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, members, Friday, we will meet at 8:30 a.m. in this room to discuss the DE and potential amendments to the amendment. Any amendments to the amendment need to be submitted by noon on Thursday, April 18th to Mr. Travis Reese. Please keep materials in your folders as they will be needed for Friday's hearing as well. That said,
Mr. Chair, just a quick follow-up on Friday. Are we also allowing testifiers on Friday to bills?
yes. If they sign
Okay,
up-
if they're requesting. Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Well, plenty of time. We could be here all day too, Lee Baker.
What's that?
So we could be here all day too Friday.
Well, just wondering if it's even allowed. That's all I was asking. That's fine.
Okay, committee's adjourned.